There, I just finished reading East of Eden, a book recommended to me by my friend Savannah as part of a series where I'm reading 30 books recommended to me by 30 friends on TikTok in the year before I turned 30. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on this massive book. As usual, stick around to the very end where I'll be picking out our next read. And I'm sitting in front of a bookshelf, which I think makes me an official book person. Look, I'll even invert the video. One thing I want to say right off the bat about this book is that I was told over and over again that this book is essentially just a retelling of the Cain and Abel story in the Bible. And if you haven't read this book, but people have said that to you, you should know that all of those people are fucking liars. Now yes, there is a Cain and Abel retelling in this book, but the two characters that are the parallels of Cain and Abel do not appear until the last 150 pages of this 600-page book. So to call this a Cain and Abel retelling, I think is really selling this short. This is a very epic saga that spans over the course of 3 whole generations. And I think the biggest through line throughout all 3 generations of this story is showing the very self-destructive behaviors that we will often exhibit in an attempt to find love. And I think that theme is ultimately what makes the biggest difference between the Cain and Abel retelling in the story and the actual Cain and Abel story in the Bible. Because here we have a son that is not just destructive for the sake of being destructive, but is destructive specifically because he so desires his own father's approval. I think the dynamics between child and parent are very well explored here in a way that is incredibly devastating. You know, this is a fucked up book, Savannah. This book is also unironically frightening. This is probably the scariest antagonist I have read in a book in a long time. Before I read this book, Savannah told me that a very large plot point and one of the largest themes throughout the book is based off of a translation of a Hebrew word in the Bible. Fun fact, that Hebrew word is mistranslated. Steinbeck doesn't actually even spell it right. I didn't take points off for that. I thought it was funny. I want to say also, for an American classic that is often considered a masterpiece, this was surprisingly easy to read, which is definitely not common. Somehow both kind of slow-paced, but also has these incredibly intense payoffs like every 50 pages. Many of those payoffs are pretty disturbing. Like I said, this is a very devastating book at points. It's a devastating book that I really liked because the book makes an effort to show that the devastation here is a byproduct of our own choices. And it's not just something that's inevitable. Anyways, here's my favorite quote from the book. When a child first catches adults out, when it first walks into his grave little head that adults do not have divine intelligence, that their judgments are not always wise, their thinking true, their sentences just, his world falls into panic desolation. The gods are fallen and all safety gone, and there is one sure thing about the fall of gods. They do not fall a little. They crash and shatter or sink deeply into green muck. It is a tedious job to build them up again. They never quite shine, and the child's world is never quite whole again. It is an aching kind of growing. Anyways, thank you to Savannah for recommending this book. I really enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about the book if you happen to read it yourself. But for right now, I've got to pick out our next read. And mix. And the person picking out our next read is going to be The Conscious Lee. All right, where is he? Conscious. Oh, Conscious.
Revolutionary Suicide, the Huey P. Newton biography, is one of my favorite books because it literally sparked the flame that y'all know as Conscious Lee. I'm talking about illustrating the political, social, and economic reality of Black folks in a way that was so inspiring, empowering, and compassionate. Y'all should check it out. I'm Conscious Lee. Education is elevation.
Okay, I've got Revolutionary Suicide right here ready to read. At 360 pages, reading 27 pages a day, it should take me 14 days to read this book. Meaning if I start tomorrow, March 21st, I should be finished by April 3rd, which means I will be back here on April 4th to talk about my thoughts about the book, as well as to pick out our next read. See you then!